We are continuing to follow some breaking news this morning. The FBI is actively searching the Maryland home of former Trump administration National Security Advisor John Bolton as part of an investigation into the handling of classified documents.
Yeah, Bolton served, as you remember, as Trump's third national security advisor. He was in that role for 17 months and during that time clashed with the president over the handling of relations with Iran, Afghanistan, and North Korea. Now, the first Trump administration had unsuccessfully sought to block the publication of a Bolton book that said it contained classified information.
Joining us now, Chief Legal Analyst Khalif Rhodes. Khalif, this has all been unfolding in the last hour. We were going to talk about something completely different. We saw this happening on our screens. What legal issues, if you're with the FBI or the DOJ, what legal issues do they have being able to go in? And then what legal issues, I guess, defenses does he have? We saw him leaving earlier.
100%, you just need a warrant. I mean, I've mentioned this a number of times before that the only people that can authorize someone to come into your home is yourself and or a judge. And so the FBI is no different. They'll need to go get a warrant to go search his property. If the allegations are that there are documents in that property that are classified in nature, then they're going to go in there and attempt to try to get them, because keeping classified documents obviously is a violation of the law. The irony behind this entire story is that his comments against the president about his mishandling of things and his behavior specifically regarding classified documents is what kind of kickstarts this whole thing. I mean, Bolton has said in the past, called Trump naive and dangerous, called him fundamentally ignorant, called him erratic, a number of times, said the worst president in history. But the book right here, it's called The Room Where It Happens. He said Trump is unfit to be president. In that book, the FBI is alleging that there are a number of references to classified information, and they're saying, well, if he has these things to write the book, he probably still has the documents at his home. It's not a hard, logical step to try to figure out what they're looking for. It's all connected to the book.
I have a question in terms of what we heard from the Trump presidency when they took office, saying that this was not going to be a weaponization of the DOJ. FBI Director Kash Patel wrote in 2023 that he included Bolton in a list of, quote, members of the executive branch deep state. We already know that Trump has taken away the security protections for Bolton as well. If this isn't a weaponization of the DOJ, what is it, Khalif?
I don't know any other way to call it. I mean, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, then it's a duck. I mean, a number of the times during Trump's campaign, before he was two-time now President Trump, during his campaign for his second term, he said, I won't weaponize the Department of Justice, but I will be your retribution. I will be your retaliation, speaking to his base. And so part of that, and part of what Bolton has said, is that Trump really only cares in response to that retribution for himself. So if your name falls on that list of that deep state enemies against the country, that's a bad thing. But if your name falls on the list of an enemy of Trump, then yes, you're going to be in his crosshairs, and he will do anything to get back at you. And we've seen that. This is that type of thing where now he has the power by pulling the strings to make any of these things happen. Now, I'm not setting aside the facts that if there are classified documents in this individual's house, the same way I said that President Trump shouldn't have them, the same way I said that Biden shouldn't have had them. If you have classified documents and you have a duty to turn them over because now you no longer have access to those classified documents, it is a violation of the law and should be investigated. This individual just now has spiked the fire just a little bit more by warming up the temperature with these attack after attack after attack. Trying to get the book stopped was their warning, saying, hey, we know you got this. You may not want to come out with this. Okay, you're going to go ahead and publish the book anyway? All right, it's our move now. We're coming after you, and we'll be at your house. So you want to know where the room where it happens? It'll be in your living room when we come in with the warrant. And that's what they did.
Khalif, two quick questions. It's basically the same thought. If nothing is found, okay, and Bolton is found innocent with this investigation and search, does he have any ammunition to come back and say, hey, this is defamation, my character, you made me look bad, this could affect whatever I do the rest of my life? There's number one. Number two, if they do find something, like you mentioned, what happens? Does he go to jail? Like, what's the steps?
100%. I mean, it's a violation to keep classified documents when you're supposed to return them. I mean, that's 5 to 10 years per document, per charge. So that's there. Regarding the defamation, or the standard is still the same. It's did you know, or should you have known the statement that you've made was false at the time when you were making it? And so he may have a defense to that, specifically because they attempted to quash his release of the book. So you just go back to whatever hearing, whatever request they had during that time, and if his folks submitted information information, like my client doesn't have any documents, the things that he's talking about is from his memory, and then you guys still go forward with this, then yes, it may open up the door for some type of defamation or libel claim. Specifically with Patel's text message or tweet, I should say, this morning, saying that no one is above the law. Right after the raid occurred, yeah, he didn't say Bolton's name, but you could make the inference that he was talking about him. So yeah, that would probably be a defaming statement if it turns out that he had nothing there at all. And I think the negative implications that come after this, I mean, he's working right now and there's some type of commentary person. He's attempting to sell his book. So if he's ultimately found to have nothing, the upside is that now you got more book sales. So it's a potential win-win, but it's also potential that you may go to prison. So this is a gamble that I may not be willing to take, but he seems like he's ready for it.
Again, our chief legal analyst, Colleague Rhodes, weighing in on that. 2 points I want to make quickly about this. Bolton's lawyers have said they moved forward with the book after the White House National Security Council official, whom with Bolton had worked for with months, said the manuscript no longer contained any classified information. That's an important point. Also, Bolton has not been charged or arrested with anything as of now. Again, Khalif, thank you for weighing in on that.
Queen City News Plus. Just search Queen City News on your smart TV's app store.